There is a living organism that eats plastic. Not recycling, not downcycling, but eating. It converts polyurethane into soil and grows in a bucket on your counter. The plastic industry is worth $600 billion a year, and they have known about this for over a decade. And by the end of this video, you will know how to build your own plastic digesting system using a bucket, some straw, and something from a grocery store. Since the 1950s, the world has produced more than 8 billion tons of plastic. 40% of that is packaging: bags, wrappers, bottles, containers used once and thrown away, most of it discarded within minutes of being opened. Landfills across the United States alone take in 27 million tons of plastic every single year. Scientists estimate that each piece takes roughly 400 years to break down. It does not disappear. It does not dissolve. It fractures into smaller and smaller fragments until it becomes invisible to the naked eye. But it never stops being plastic. Those fragments end up in rivers, in agricultural soil, in the flesh of fish, and eventually in you. Researchers have now detected microplastics in human blood, in lung tissue, and even in placental fluid. The material you threw away 10 years ago is now circulating inside your body. You were told there was a solution: recycling. You rinsed your containers, you sorted your bins. You looked at the little triangle on the bottom of the bottle and you believed it meant something. Here is what it actually meant. Those resin identification codes, the numbers stamped into every plastic product you have ever purchased, were created by the plastic industry itself, not by scientists, not by environmental agencies, by the companies that manufacture the plastic. It was one of the most effective marketing campaigns in modern history. It convinced the average consumer that plastic was recyclable. Most of it is not. The recycling rate for plastic in the United States sat around 9% in 2018. Today, it has dropped to roughly 5%. Globally, the number sits at about 9% and it has not moved in years. That means over 90% of every piece of plastic ever produced was buried, burned, or dumped into the ocean. And the industry knew this would happen. Internal documents reveal that oil and plastics executives understood the limitations of recycling as far back as the 1970s. They understood the infrastructure was not there. They understood the economics did not work. They understood that making virgin plastic from crude oil was cheaper and easier than reprocessing old plastic from collection bins. They promoted recycling anyway. Starting in 1989, they lobbied nearly 40 state legislatures to mandate the recycling symbol on all plastic containers, even on types of plastic that no facility on Earth could economically process. They spent tens of millions of dollars on advertising. Feel-good commercials showing happy families sorting their bins. Green arrows spinning in circles on packaging. The illusion of responsibility handed to consumers while production scaled up every single year. In 2019, the industry launched a billion-dollar initiative called the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. The name sounds noble. What it actually promoted was more recycling infrastructure and ocean cleanups. Not a single dollar went toward reducing plastic production. That is not a solution. That is reputation management with a press release. The global plastics market crossed $960 billion in 2025. Industry analysts project it will reach $1 trillion by the early 2030s. These companies are not searching for alternatives. They are scaling production. More pellets, more packaging, more landfill volume, more fragments drifting through the Pacific. But what if something could actually eat it? Not process it, not melt it down and reshape it into a slightly worse version of itself. Eat it, digest it, convert it into dirt. And what if that something had been sitting in a rainforest for millions of years, waiting for someone to pay attention? In 2011, a group of students from Yale traveled to the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador. They were part of a field program called the Rainforest Expedition and Laboratory. Their professor, a molecular biochemist named Scott Strobel, had spent years studying the chemistry of tropical organisms. The students were not looking for a solution to plastic pollution. They were studying endophytic fungi, microorganisms that live inside plant tissues without causing harm to the host. The team traveled deep into Yasuni National Park, one of the most biologically dense places on the planet. They collected dozens of fungal samples from plants known to produce latex and other natural polymers. The thinking was elegant. If a fungus evolved inside a plant that naturally produces complex polymer structures chemically similar to plastic, then it might already possess the enzymatic tools to break synthetic polymers apart. Evolution had been running the experiment for millions of years. The students just needed to collect the results. A student named Priya Anand brought samples back to the laboratory. She tested them against polyurethane, one of the most durable and environmentally persistent plastics ever created. Polyurethane is in your couch cushions, your running shoes, your refrigerator insulation, and your car dashboard. It is in the foam beneath your carpet and the sealant around your windows. It is everywhere. And under normal conditions, it does not break down. Not in landfills, not in oceans, not in 400 years. One fungus ate it, not slowly, not partially. It colonized the polyurethane, broke it apart, and converted it into organic matter. In 2 weeks, the plastic was gone. Another student named Jonathan Russell expanded the research and confirmed something even more remarkable. This organism could survive on polyurethane as its sole carbon source. No additional nutrients, no supplements, no soil, just plastic. And it could do this without oxygen. That detail changes everything. Landfills are anaerobic environments, dark, airless, compressed under millions of tons of waste. Most biological processes shut down in those conditions. This fungus thrived in them. Its name is Pestaloteuopsis microspora, a small, unremarkable, light brown fungus. Nothing dramatic to look at, nothing that would catch your eye on a forest floor, just a quiet organism doing what it has been doing for millions of years, breaking down tough polymers, turning complex chemical structures into simple organic compounds, turning waste into soil. The findings were published in a respected microbiology journal in September of 2011. The story made headlines for about a week. A few news articles, a handful of blog posts, then silence. No funding wave, no government programs, no corporate partnerships. A student discovered that a fungus could eat one of the most indestructible materials humans have ever created, and the world moved on within days. But the Amazon fungus was not alone. Not even close. To understand why fungi can do this, you need to understand what fungi have been doing for the last 300 million years. Long before humans existed, fungi evolved to break down lignin. Lignin is a tough natural polymer that holds plant cell walls together. It is one of the most chemically resistant organic compounds in nature. Fungi developed specialized enzymes to dismantle it, molecule by molecule. These enzymes act like molecular scissors, cutting long polymer chains into small, digestible fragments. Plastic is a polymer, a synthetic one, but structurally it shares key characteristics with the natural polymers that fungi have been consuming since before the dinosaurs walked the earth. The fungi did not need to evolve new tools for the job. They already had them, and the organism from Ecuador was just the beginning. Researchers around the world started testing other species. What they found was extraordinary. Over 90 genera of fungi, bacteria, and related organisms have now been identified with the ability to degrade some form of plastic. This is not a single freak discovery. This is a biological pattern that stretches across the entire tree of life. Nature has been quietly assembling the tools to take plastic apart since long before we invented it. The most remarkable example was hiding in plain sight, in every grocery store produce section, on every restaurant menu, on mushroom farms across 6 continents. The oyster mushroom, common, cheap, grown commercially on an industrial scale, eaten by millions of people every day, and it eats plastic. A research team in Nigeria confirmed in 2023 that oyster mushrooms degraded PET plastic over a period of 30 to 60 days. PET is the plastic in your water bottles, your food packaging, your clothing fibers. Scientists in Mexico demonstrated that oyster mushrooms broke down polyethylene films, with UV-treated recycled plastic fragmenting within 5 weeks. Other studies showed the mushrooms can decompose plant-based plastics and leave behind nothing but carbon dioxide and water. And here is where it sounds impossible. Once the mushroom has consumed all the plastic, there is no plastic remaining in the finished product. The fungus breaks down the polymer chains completely. It does not store plastic residues the way it stores heavy metals. The mushroom that grows on garbage is safe to eat. Researchers who tasted it describe it as mildly sweet with a faint scent of anise or licorice. 1 organism, 2 crises. Addressed simultaneously. Plastic waste eliminated. Edible protein produced from garbage. A common grocery store mushroom eats plastic, turns it into soil, and remains safe to eat. It has been studied for over a decade. The research is published and the results are clear. So why is your recycling bin still overflowing? Why is no one building this at scale? Why are landfills still swelling with material that will outlast the civilization that produced it? Follow the money. The plastic industry does not sell solutions to plastic waste. It sells plastic. Every dollar spent solving the plastic problem is a dollar that argues against manufacturing more of it. Manufacturing more of it is the only objective the industry was built to pursue. A living organism that converts plastic into soil at zero cost generates zero recurring revenue. Zero recurring revenue attracts zero corporate investment. Zero corporate investment means zero marketing budget. Zero marketing means 2 full generations of humans grow up without ever learning that a grocery store mushroom can eat the garbage, choking their oceans, their soil, and their bloodstreams. This is not conspiracy. This is economics. Look at where the money actually goes. Billions flow into chemical recycling plants, pyrolysis systems, and advanced polymer chemistry, technologies the industry controls. These technologies require massive capital investment, generate proprietary licensing fees, and create permanent dependency on corporate infrastructure. 2023 report examining 11 chemical recycling plants operating across the United States concluded that the technology has failed for decades and continues to fail. The researchers found no evidence it will ever contribute to solving the plastic crisis. But the funding keeps coming because the industry owns the intellectual property. It controls the process. It profits whether the process works or not. Meanwhile, fungal plastic degradation research survives on scraps. It is scattered across small university labs in Lagos, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, and Vienna. Small teams with small budgets publish papers that collect dust in academic databases while the world drowns in polyethylene. The fossil fuel and petrochemical industry employs more than 1,500 lobbyists who work simultaneously with cities, universities, and environmental organizations. At least 10 states in America have passed preemption laws that prevent local governments from banning or restricting plastic products. In those states, a city council that wanted to protect its own residents from plastic pollution is legally prohibited from doing so. The industry wrote those laws. Legislators signed them into effect. They are not just ignoring the mushroom. They are building legal fortifications around the problem to ensure that no biological alternative ever threatens their supply chain. The plastic industry does not fear regulation. It fears irrelevance. A mushroom that turns their product into dirt is the definition of irrelevance. But the mushroom does not read legislation. It does not attend congressional hearings. It does not track quarterly earnings reports. It just grows. Someone already figured out how to put it to work on your kitchen counter. An Austrian researcher named Katharina Unger designed a device called the Fungi Mutarium. It is a small system built to let ordinary people recycle plastic waste using mushrooms. The concept is simple. Small pods made of agar, a gel derived from seaweed, are filled with shredded plastic. Mushroom mycelium is introduced into the pods. Over several weeks, the fungi colonize the substrate, consume the plastic, and overgrow the entire structure. What remains is organic matter and edible mushroom tissue. No plastic, no chemical residue, just soil and food. Unger tested two species, the common oyster mushroom and a fungus called Schizophilum commune, a species found naturally on every continent except Antarctica. Both consumed the plastic and both produced edible results. Scientists now envision smaller versions for homes and larger systems for municipal waste processing centers. Here is how you can begin today. Buy oyster mushroom spawn from a garden center or any online supplier. It costs a few dollars. Shred thin plastic into small pieces and leave the pieces in direct sunlight for several days. The ultraviolet exposure weakens the polymer bonds and gives the fungus an easier point of entry. Prepare a standard mushroom growing substrate using straw, shredded cardboard, or used coffee grounds. Mix in the treated plastic fragments. Inoculate with the oyster mushroom spawn. Keep the container in a warm, humid spot, and wait. The white threads of mycelium will spread through the substrate within days, wrapping around straw fibers and plastic fragments alike. Within weeks, you will see visible degradation. Within a few months, the plastic converts to organic matter, and then the mushrooms fruit. You pick them, you cook them, you eat what grew on your garbage. One bucket, some straw, a few dollars of spawn, plastic gone. Dinner on the table, no subscription, no corporation standing between you and a solution that actually works. Now picture that at scale. Municipal composting facilities fitted with fungal bioreactors processing tons of waste per day. Coastal cleanup stations feeding collected ocean plastic into mycelium beds along shorelines from Indonesia to the Gulf of Mexico. Landfills across the American Midwest seeded with Pestalothiopsis spores that work in the dark, without oxygen, slowly and silently digesting their contents from within for decades. None of this requires new technology. The biology has existed for 300 million years. The research has been published for over 10 years. The organism grows on dead wood in forests that nobody owns. The only thing missing is the will to use it. And will is expensive when 1,500 lobbyists are paid to make sure it never arrives. $600 billion of plastic moves through the global economy every year. Petrochemical plants run around the clock in Texas and Louisiana and along the coastlines of China. Lobbyists draft preemption laws over lunch in state capitals. Recycling symbols get stamped onto products that will never be recycled. Trucks haul bins to sorting facilities that process 5 cents of every dollar they collect. And somewhere in a forest in Ecuador, a quiet fungus sits on a rotting log doing what it has done since before anything on this planet looked remotely human, breaking things down, turning waste into soil. It is not waiting for permission. The only question is whether you are. If longevity fascinates you, my friend runs a channel called Centenarian's Garden, all about blue zone secrets and what actually helps people live past 100. Go check them out. You won't regret it.